Hey, you like cars? Okay, so we got something a little bit different today. This isn't a normal pace that I go, but today we're here with Reggie. Here's Cameron, CarQuicks. You know the drill. This is a special kind of podcast episode. We're at episode 96. I don't have my little clapper I normally do, but I'm here to talk about with this gentleman, and I'm also here to talk about this particular car. And if you don't know what this car is, I'm not going to give you the whole history, because if you know about Top Secret Japan, if you know about Top Secret, the tuning company from Japan, then you know who like Smoky Nagata is. If you don't know, somebody for sure got a history lesson on YouTube for a video for you to watch. But The gentleman behind this car is incredibly special, incredibly important to JDM car culture, to car culture in general, to modifying cars, to tuning cars. He will go down in history as one of the pioneers of this segment, not just on an R34 GTR, but just in general when it comes to cars. So we're going to have a conversation about this. We're just going to have a conversation about Reggie himself and just get to know what he did to acquire this car, his passion for cars, and mine as well, and what else he likes. So we're going to drive right into it. So just to kind of start, simple. Where did you grow up at?
Man, I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
I'm old country hood boy, man.
Yeah.
So, Shreveport really don't have many nice cars. They call it Ratchet City, for anybody who knows Louisiana. But yeah, born and raised there. But out the womb, man, I was crazy about cars, So the few dealerships we did have, I would tell my dad all the time, I want to go. Like, I remember when E46 M3 came out, I want to go. So that's just, this is indoctrinated in me, man.
So was your father also into cars, or like anybody else in your family? Or
Not like me, man. He liked them, but he wasn't obsessed with them like me, but he supported it.
Mine is the same way, where my dad knew how to work on cars, so there was a car around.
Yeah.
When we're talking about daily drivers, you can fix a car. The passion I had for like JDM and that car culture, I was really, in my circle of friends growing up, was the only one. Right. I remember I was the one who found out where to get like option magazines and like flipping through them, and they just couldn't understand it. They would look at it. My dad would see it and be like, I know a couple classic cars, I know a couple muscle cars. I have no idea what you're doing with that Nissan. I don't know what all that is. And my mother was the one that kind of cultivated that, because she would take me to auto shows. Mm-hmm. She would take me to stuff. So it was kind of like the reverse. Most people say like their dad was in the cars and it trickled down. I was like, no, it was just me.
Yeah,
so I have a similar story. What was the car that got you kind of like hooked, where you saw it and you were like, I have to have that? Like, this is...
That's a good point. I'm trying to... I've always liked all the genres, JDM, German. On the exotic standpoint, I was more so a Ferrari person. I'm trying to see what was the car that really got me. So I can certainly name, let me look at the year. So 1997 GT1 came out with PlayStation. 1995, the F50 came out. 1995 or 7, the F1 came out. If I was to name a car that really did it for me, it was probably the F50.
Ferrari F50. We're in the same bracket. See, I think I'm one of the people, because I know the F40 is here. I'm the person that's like F50.
F50
every single time.
It's the freaking one, bro.
Yeah, and so I've had this argument with people like F50 over F40. They said every single
time of the day.
I said, gated manual V12.
Yep.
I said, tell me where, just an experience.
It's just so unique, man.
And they look so, funny enough, now they're, I don't have the means to buy an F50, but now it's popularity I see trickling up.
Oh, it's going
like
crazy
on Instagram,
now.
I see people like, oh, we kind of slept on it. It's like, no, we didn't. I was like, no, nobody slept. You just weren't paying attention to it.
For a while, it was this, we had this, I think over the years, we've kind of transformed the perception of performance. The better the performance, the better the car, right? And things are changing. And for many years, the F40 was like, oh, the F40 was a faster car, and it came out a whole bunch of years before. Yeah, but F40 is great. Don't get me wrong. Love the car.
Yeah, it's an amazing car.
But the F50, naturally aspirated, V12 gated manual, the noises, like the heritage behind Ferraris, like they were killing it in the F1.
Yes.
You just can't, and people started to realize, like, oh, okay, everything's turbo now, so maybe the NA cars, you should have been saw that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's true. That is when they were, as of fan of Ferrari too. That's my favorite exotic car company.
Absolutely.
And that is true. At that time, everything was at its peak.
Oh, man, they were crushing
F1 was going well because I'm a Ferrari fan, so I know right now it's like, I watch the F1 races, I'm like,
what are you doing?
I don't know what's
You're
happening.
Killing me.
I was like, I have no idea what y'all's plan is and your strategy. I just don't get it. I was like, I watch it, I'm just like, I don't know. We are solidly in 6 and 7. I said that's all we got.
It hurts.
Yeah. But so for JDM, specifically for like JDM car culture, I know you said you like German, you like American. I'm the same way, German, American, just anything. If it had wheels on it, I was all for it.
Yep.
What started leaning towards the JDM side? Like, what was it that kind of made that turning point?
Straight up, Gran Turismo.
Okay.
When I was, and to this day, it's still like the only game system I got when I was younger on the first day. I got the PlayStation 1 on the first day. And I think Gran Turismo, I don't think it was it a launch game, launch title? I can't remember.
That
Maybe
was
a year later.
Yeah, because I did not get a PlayStation on the first day. I tried, but in hindsight, I look at the price of those now and I said, I was asking for $400.95. So if my son asked me for a new console today at $400, I'd be like, man, what?
Yeah, I said, it was the only console I ever got when I was younger. Maybe I had some good grades. I don't know. I convinced my dad to that.
I got that later. But I remember Gran Turismo specifically because my best friend, who wasn't even into cars like that, he told me about it. And I remember the only thing he told me, because at that time I had plenty of racing games, Need for Speed, Ridge Racer. And he said one stat, and I didn't believe him. He said, oh, this racing game's coming out. It has 166 cars.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? I said, no, it doesn't. I'm used to seeing 30, 20, 10 options. And I remember that was like, for me, it was like, this is about to open up everything. So go on with what you're saying, too.
Like you said, and that phrase they had, like, I think it was the real racing simulator.
Yes.
It was such a market disruptor, man. Anyway, when I got that, because it was 90, let's see. So I didn't even get my first computer till I was in high school. So I actually got a PlayStation before I was in high school.
Yep.
And so I didn't really have access to the best motoring and Hot Topic and stuff like that. I was just rocking my Sega Genesis. So when I got that, it put me into the world quickly of, R32, R33. And I knew what the NSX was, but the NSX, like,
discovering the part names. Like, you put something on and you just be like, what is AB Flug? What is, like, who are these companies? Like, you put the parts on and say, and we would start repeating the names of them, not realizing, like, you're talking about a real company that exists. It's just that at that time, I'd only seen glimpses of it. Because I was born in California, so I got a little bit of a glimpse of stuff, but we moved to the East Coast. But I remember going back to my uncle's house, and he would always go and get like DVDs or videos of stuff from like Korean shops, and being around a certain area where you would see either glimpses on the street, see a magazine, and you would be like, okay, there's some subculture happening.
Right.
It hadn't made it to the East Coast. By that time, it was, I'm sure it was there. I just wasn't old enough to go see it.
Yep.
So Gran Turismo, you're putting the parts on, you're seeing companies like Wed Sports and Tonabee and, Volk Racing. You're like, who are these companies?
Who are these people? Yeah. And what do they mean? Because at that point, most I had was Motor Trend Magazine and Car and Driver, and they didn't cover a lot of that stuff. Every so often you would see a few ads, but it wasn't really big because, they were not legal here.
Yeah.
Right. So that game has opened up a whole new world for me. And to be able to feel like I can simulate how they feel, and the energy I just had around the passion. And one thing Gran Turismo to this day does really well, it evokes the passion of our automotive enthusiasts.
Yes.
And even in GT1, you felt like they love cars. Exactly. And I think it was the first car game I've ever, Need for Speed 2 felt pretty good too. But GT just had that, like, you're embedded in this world, man. I love it. So that's what it did for me.
It was, you could tell, like, the people that developed, like Polyphony Digital, like, if you go back to how they built the game, and then when Gran Turismo 2 came out and they upped the amount of cars and they upped the amount of tracks and how you can, and then you started that's when I really got into, like, I wanted to be able to modify the cars. Like, I remember adding the parts to the car was like a huge deal. I was like, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to add so much. So I remember like Gran Turismo 3 came out and they kind of dialed it back and everybody was upset. They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what's going
on? Where are the kits at? Where are the wings? Where are the wheels?
Y'all missing some brands. What's going on?
I was like, I want all of that in here.
Yep.
So it's funny enough, I had the same, it's kind of like the same trajectory. It's like you don't get to see it because you're not in the area. The car culture, like JDM culture at that time in the US was still just brewing up. It was, yes, some of the OGs will say we were doing it, but it was like very niche. Nothing like it is now because we don't have social media at that time either. But you had to either be in a pocket where either somebody was doing it or you were on your own talking about it.
Right.
Like I was that kid. I was the one talking about it, showing friends pictures. And then when car magazines started coming out like Super Street and Sport Compact and Modified, and I'm buying those magazines more than a car and driver, and I'm showing friends of mine, they're like, what is this world? Like, what is this? So they took a regular Civic and it became this. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you can do. Get all those parts. So to kind of get into specifically this car, what, and let me kind of dial it back. What began your journey to get to have a relationship with Top Secret? Because from my understanding, I could be limited on what that is. From what I've seen of Top Secret from the years, their name is almost exactly how they operate. Where it's like you saw the viral video at that time of Smoky in the what was he in the English Channel? Or somewhere doing a burnout, doing 200 miles an hour. But every video that we saw at the time was a grainy thing on the internet that we didn't have any context. We didn't know who this guy was. We were like, I don't know what's going on. He's making these cars. They're in Japan. It was like the Wild Wild West. We were just thinking they were just on the Wayne game, running around, racing all day long. We were like, I don't know what's happening, but they can do whatever they want. But Top Secret to me always moved like a secret company. They are public. You can see them, but they barely advertise. Like if you go on the Instagram page, it's like, here's a picture from last year.
Right.
Here's a post. And it kind of feels like they're doing it now because social media is a thing. But he feels like he's old school where he's like, I don't want to do any of this.
No, you can't DM Smokey and you can't tag him in any post. Trust me, I've tried. He doesn't allow, and what you're describing is Smokey's aura. Like his aura is very much leave me alone, let me do what I want to do. And the only time I've seen some of the pure Japanese videos that I think really didn't get to most around the rest of the world, you kind of saw a different personality with Smokey. He was talking, and I didn't really think these existed. Like I saw him like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, that's Smokey, and he seemed energetic. I think he was at Daikaku.
Oh, Daikaku.
Yeah. He was like smiling. I'm like, oh, that's a different Smokey. But in general, like most of what I see of Smokey, and even today when I go to Top Secret, he's very much down to earth, subtle with his, humble guy. But also very much focused. Like he's very targeted on what he wants to do. You can't go into the garage unless you either know him or you're a customer. Keeps him closed. He doesn't want anybody in. And when you do go in there, you're only in there for a short amount of time because they say he doesn't want people in his garage too long. So his social media is like down here and it fills up quickly.
His social media is his work. His social media is his work. I mean, saying you can come in there, but it sounds like, when the term of like the eccentric artist or like somebody who just likes their craft and that's what they do. It's kind of like a chef and a cookie and they're like, oh, he's so good. I just want to watch him. And he's like, don't come in the kitchen.
Right.
Don't look at anything I'm doing. You'll see it when I'm done. I'll bring it out. I'll present. So for him, it's probably like the cars. He's like, I'll present to you the cars. And when you've been doing it as long as he has, I kind of understand it because it's kind of like if you've been doing it for so long at such a high level, being at the top of what you're doing, then gets to the point where people are like, oh, I want to see what you're doing. It's kind of like, listen, I've already checked my password.
And it's funny because that's exactly how I describe Smokey to other people. There are car builders. And then there are car artists. Like Smokey is an artist in what he does. He is literally an artist of his craft, and he moves in that way. Like you said, let me focus on what I want to do. When I finish, you will see it, and we'll go from there. Because even whenever you put in your description for a full build, there is a sheet that, and we can go through the process, like, from, 0 to 1, but you talk to Smoky's, whoever is representing Top Secret, not directly to Smoky. And they're like, okay, tell us what you want, right? And you do this description, and they're like, okay, thanks. Smoky will let you know what he wants to do. That's the response. That's it. He's like, yeah, well, he'll make a decision based on what you want, and that's what it's going to be.
The chef thing was a good example then, because it's kind of like if you ever had an experience where you go inside of the kitchen and the chef is cooking for you, like whatever they want. They might ask for your dietary restrictions.
That's exactly.
And you might say like, well, I can't have fish or I can't have dairy. And they're like, cool.
I got you.
But I like chicken and steak. And they're like, that's nice. We're just going to do whatever else.
Right.
I'm doing what I want. I'm just going to make sure you don't get sick on the process.
That's a perfect analogy. That's exactly how he works.
Even begin that process. I'm assuming that you have to build some relationship prior to, I don't know if you can just call Top Secret and just say, hey, I want you to give me a car. I don't know you from Adam, but hey, I like your stuff. Can you do it for me? Or is it in a true artist form where he's like, let me meet you. I want to see who you are. I want to see what you're trying to do with the car, because there is some pride in what they do with their work. They don't just want to I would imagine they don't want to just hand it off to anybody and then you go and do something, I don't know, stupid to it. And then he's like, I didn't ask for you to have me build you something to go and destroy it or ruin it or talk about it or critique it in a way where it looks bad on what I'm doing.
Yep.
So how would that process go for you?
So it started actually pretty easily. He had a gold art, which is super rare for them. He had a gold R32 listed online in 2019.
Oh, for sale?
Oh yeah, on the website.
Oh,
and I was like, is that a real gold? Am I on the right website?
Like,
and it was
checking the URL twice. Yeah. He's like, I don't.
And I think that was before I think a lot of people knew Top Secret had a website, but they listed it. And I was like, and I immediately emailed. I was like, is the gold R32 available? And they were like, yeah. I'm like, I want it. How do I buy this thing? Because I knew that wasn't a common thing. So I bought that. Went to Japan. Well, after I got it back in the U.S., ended up visiting him. And to say, thank you, I'm a big fan. He doesn't speak English, right? But it's translator. And just kind of let him know about how I appreciate what he's done for the automotive world and the cars. Yeah. So I bought that, came back to the U.S., did a lot of media on the car. Hargitty covered the car. There was some really cool.
I'm sure I've probably seen your videos of it.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because if it was a gold R32, that can't be but.
Yeah.
At that time. 2019 is early.
Yeah, I didn't actually do a lot of video stuff myself, but the Hargitty stuff there, because they did like a little evaluation, or it was just like a little cool article, but it just went viral.
Yeah.
And there were few, and it was in California, which is like the hottest scene for these cars.
Exactly.
So they had some events, and people just flooded to come and see it, because this outside of the one gentleman, I think it was the only gold R32 in the U.S.
Yeah. So, and at 2019, you're talking. I mean, now. We're talking about something now where JDM cars being in the U.S. in 2025 is a regular everyday occurrence. In 2019, you weren't like Motor Rex blazing the trail, but you were early enough on where if you saw a Skyline in 2018 or 2019 on the road, the first question would be, how did you get it here?
Right.
That was like the first
Is that legal?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's how it was. It was hot on the scene, and they actually communicated that to me. They appreciated the media that we demonstrated for the car. So I think they have built a relationship. After that, still visited a few times. Hey, how you doing, Smokey? Bought some clothes and stuff. Simple thing. Just say hello. And ultimately, I was like, man, I really want a gold, another gold car. And the Fusion RR R34 GTR, which is, I think, probably the most popular historical R34 in gold.
Yeah.
It was a time attack car for best motoring that they used, time trial. I was like, I really want a modern version of this. And he was just like, yeah, I don't know. That was it.
That's in true artist, in true artist term.
I don't really want to build anything right now. Like, I don't know. That was it. It was, I don't know. And then
I don't know. It's probably worse than just saying straight up no, because it's like you don't know if you should you don't know if you should prod more. You're like, is that a strong? I don't know, or is it like I got to convince you? Because if it's a strong one, the I don't know can be like, hey, stop asking me, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
Then you're like,
yeah.
oh man, I had an option. I just should have backed up a
Yeah.
bit.
Some years later, I got a text from the representative at Top Secret. He was like, hey, Smokey wants to do your car. I was like, wait, what? Really? Just random. And he
was
said,
like eating breakfast, and he was like,
yeah,
that's actually crazy. Because if you think about, you said it was years later.
It was probably a couple of years later.
I mean, obviously people have good memory, but you don't always remember random conversations you have, especially if you run in a business.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're running a business and you've been doing things,
Mm-hmm.
to even sit there and just say, hey, go tell Reggie I want to do it. And it's like,
I think he would just walk around smoking. He was like, maybe we can do that car now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it was interesting, man. But he wanted to do a 33 because that's it. The 33 is his favorite Skyline. People don't know it, but that's his favorite one. And I was like, I really appreciate that, but I really love the 34, Smokey.
You were walking a tightrope. I was walking a
tightrope. I was like, but this is my chance. And it was like, okay. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, what do we do? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's one of those like when the sale's done close, and they say like when a person says, do you want it? Yes. Then you just like, shut up. Don't say anything else.
Okay, cool. Done.
It's like,
yep. So yeah, I mean, and that's how the process, and they explicitly told me the only reason Smokey's doing this because the relationship that you build with him, and he really appreciates what you did in America. And I was like, I'll take it, whatever I'm good. Let's go. It's
probably
for it.
Also the respect you shown to to him saying, I don't know.
Yep.
And not honestly letting it be.
Yep.
Because I can imagine if you kept going every other 3 months, like, what do you think?
Yep.
What do you say? He might have got to the point like, I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
That's a great point.
I feel like you waited and he was just like, he hasn't said, because I guarantee, I'm sure he has plenty of other emails that people all over the world saying, can you do this for me? I got X amount of dollars. They don't care how much it costs. I got millions. I'll do it. They're just like, no.
Yeah.
And then it's the guy that bought the car that actually represented it well for a country that we don't have them. So it's not like, I mean, people who are into the scene, we know Top Secret, but if you don't know cars, like, or if you're just getting into cars, like I have an 11-year-old son, he'll know Top Secret because I'm telling him about it. But he'll see it and think this is like a current thing that's like, oh, he can just go get a Top Secret car. And I'm like, no, you can't. That's actually a very, very special situation.
Yeah. No,
so kind of, I feel like you respected the culture, his name, and it kind of led down to that relationship being built. So he says, okay, the R34. What happens next?
Yeah. So after that, the process is essentially, all right, we're doing a fully restored, bespoke vehicle for you. Let us know what you want. And they sent me the spreadsheet, engine, exterior, blah, blah, blah. And I can just kind of tell them what my requests are. Keyword, request. I didn't really understand that until I did the request. I was like, okay, cool. But really what I said and this is something I always ensure that they understood. I said, I want whatever Smokey is feeling. Because if he doesn't feel it, it doesn't come, I don't think it comes out the same way. He has to be passionate about what he's doing. That's why he does gold. When he's passionate about something, it comes out gold. So I was like, look, I'm going to do this, but what does Smokey want? And they was like, oh, well, he wants to know what you want. I'm like, all right, let me just start this process.
Start the process of it too.
I said, here's what I think I want. Honestly, I'm not an expert at this, so you know way more than me, but here's what I think I want. And I did have a specification. I said, I would like to use this type of turbo if possible. I knew I was walking tight ropes.
Yeah.
And I think he got curious and started looking into them more. And I think he wanted to like test it out. And all of a sudden, I think 2 months later, they were like, oh yeah, he'll use that. I'm like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's how the process is very volatile in terms of like emotions. Because you're not really sure what's going to happen next.
Because you're excited, but you don't want to, it's like you don't want to overstep.
You don't want to push too hard.
He's like, he comes back and says, tell me what you want. You're like, okay, did I tell you,
are you tricking
how
me?
much do I have to tell you?
Right.
But it is also very cool where you want something that represents kind of like you want a historical piece. So I want Smokey to make me something that he can stand by.
Yeah. So what I understand is that Smokey will only build a gold car if he believes it's up to his highest standards or his highest level of creativity. Those are my words.
Okay.
But that's how it comes across.
That's how it's basically translated over.
Yeah. And so there was one thing during the process they made sure to communicate to me. They were like, Smokey feels good. He's positive. Like, it's a very interesting thing. He was like, he's having a good time. He's energetic. Like, it's a very
really
emotional process for both the buyer and Smoky. I said for me and Smoky, because he's on this like this creativity island.
Yeah.
And when he's feeling it, he's really feeling it. And so when he's doing it, I'm like, all right, Reggie, don't ask too many questions.
That's really interesting.
Let him flow, you know? It's like in the flow state in some ways.
I know we use the analogy like an artist, but as you're saying the story, it really is falling into place that is exactly what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Because to hear your translator say he's feeling good, he's excited about it, he's enjoying his time, is interesting because from the American standpoint, we're like, I gave you money, do the service, right? If I go to order food and they're like, the chef feels good today, he's really excited about making these burgers.
Yeah.
I'd be in the line like, okay.
That's what he's supposed to do?
I'm at the burger spot.
I'm paying.
Give me my food.
Yeah,
It's like, I paid for it. So it is different to like kind of put down your Western ideologies,
you have
right?
to.
Because on one hand, you could be like, I just gave you X amount of dollars. It's cool that you feel nice, but I want the car done.
And when time is going to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
I need my stuff.
But that's not, to hear how that goes, it tells you that he's like, there's no rushing me.
There's no rush.
And I have to feel good about what I'm doing in order to present you something. So it really is very much you commissioning something and sitting back and saying, when it arrives, it arrives. You're building this out. You got the spec sheet. What was, like, I know they make crazy horsepower vehicles. What was the number that you wanted him to build it at? Like, what were you thinking? You thinking street car? Were you thinking, I want high horsepower, or do you want like, I want just every day, I can ride it, I can drive it hard, I don't have to deal with like an extreme, like I need 100 octane fuel, I can just go to Shell, I can get what I need and it's going to perform. What was the number you were at?
So in my mind, I wanted something, and kind of going back a bit earlier, I constantly repeated, I want Smoky to be happy with the build. I wanted something that reminded me of the old Supra days. So I was like, I just want a crazy Smoky DNA car, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how high is Smoky willing to go? Not that I need it. I just wanted something crazy. I wanted as crazy as Smoky's willing to do. And they were like, well, he will do high horsepower, but he doesn't want to go too high because he wants it to be very drivable for you. And so we end up settling around 900 horsepower, which is really high. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, Smoky's done, which is way over 1,000 horsepower cars.
That's funny because
himself before.
That's a funny number to land where you've built so many cars where your settle stage is 900.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I'm trying to build 900. He's like, I'll settle here.
Yeah, yeah. That's where I mean, and honestly, this is probably one of the few customer cars he's built that had that power. Most everything else with that power were cars he built for himself. The Supra and and the R33, they were specific cars for a specific event or scenario.
Yeah.
So this may be the highest horsepower car he's built outside of the R33 and the Supra. Maybe Supra.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's where we landed, and he just wanted it to be very drivable for me and enjoyable, right? Because there's a balance between drivability and excess power, and honestly, this is right at the edge. Because this fast as crap. Man.
Yeah, I will be honest, like the 900, I would almost think that the drivability is maybe based on if you're just used to driving high horsepower cars, you can deal with the quirks and issues with it. But you're saying that he built it at the edge, but the edge is drivable. Like I can move it around the streets and everything's fine.
The biggest thing on this car, but it was a necessity, is the clutch. You had to have something that could hold that power.
Yeah.
Now, I would say anything about the car, because it's super analog and it'll rock you.
Yeah.
But that's my fault because that's what I wanted. I said, Smoky, I really want a time attack car like the Fusion RR that you can drive on the road. So he basically went as far as track car possible without it becoming a time attack car. So it definitely has some of that track car type of characteristic and personality, but it's still like once you get it going on the highway, it's just silk, man. Like it's really nice.
For an engine build like this, can you go to pump gas? Is it only race fuel? Is it E85? Is it
right? So E85 is not a common fuel in Japan.
Yes,
Smoky only tunes on Japanese super premium.
which
is approximately 95, 96 US octane. It's 100 octane over there. So I run Sunoco 103 octane, which is US octane, which is higher. I think this Aki, anyway, whatever. I'm not going to go into details, but it's a higher octane in our pump gas, so it gives me a little breathing room versus the Japanese gas, because I want to make sure I'm not knocking anything, and down here the humidity is different, so the tune has a little bit. The tune is going to be reacting differently to the environment, right? So yeah, I run a basically higher octane than them, but it's not tuned on any type of race fuel.
Do you grab that like just by the barrels, or can we get that at a station there?
Man, it's hard, dude.
I was like, there's no way.
You have to go to a shop that sells 5-gallon or full barrel pails. So I get 5-gallon pails of that Sunoco fuel. So it's not nice, but I also don't drive it a lot.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like you said, it's not like we're trying to drive from here to California. You're like, because you got to have a support vehicle behind you with all the fuel. Like, I got to fuel you up every 150 miles to get there. So I understand that. That kind of makes sense. Where it's like the art piece isn't always. Sometimes it's to enjoy and see and to experience for those moments that you're experiencing it at. Not necessarily.
And one point on that, real fast, and people will ask me, why don't you just retune it, put a Haltech in it? The Haltech's great, but this is a Smoky built car. I'm like, I don't want to change a dang thing on it. And I think if I do that, it affects some of the authenticity. I would much rather just buy some high octane fuel and leave it as it's left Smoky shop, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because the Haltech thing is, what you're saying is at that point, how about I just go, let me leave, what I'm gathering is that you're like, I'll leave this. We'll leave the top secret R34 as it is. I'll go get another R34, and if I want to call the boys down to Australia and say, hey, send me the full built engine with the Haltech and all that, and I'll do all that, and we'll get all crazy. But that misses the point of, that's when people approach this car and they're looking at it just like another R34. You approach it like, you can't just go get this.
No.
So the person that did it, it's kind of like the RWB Porsches that we're talking about. The person that did it, the hands that touched it, the idea that they had, and the love that they poured into it is all encompassing. So you have him build this, we got this 900 horsepower R34. Aesthetically, if I'm correct, this is a different front bumper than what they've done. I know they always change it, but it looks, even from what I'm seeing, it looks different than their previous designs as well.
So I think this is the same front bumper that was on the Fusion RR. But what may be different is the lip.
This carbon lip down here.
I think the lip is different. I think it's more of a modern design. But no, this is his heritage top secret R34 front bumper.
This is the one that has been around for all the, well, not all the models, but he's been
the
doing
ones that I know. I know the Fusion RR had this bumper, but I'm not sure if it had that lip. That's what I'm not.
This might be something more to like modernize it for today's time. So he goes, he's building it out. You have the engine. Now, what about the color? Now, did you know that it was this? We know he does gold, but at that time when you were having it built, did you know that he was going to paint it gold, or did you already knew that from the onset? Did he ever tell you about the shade of it? Did you think it was the original, like what we've always seen from Top Secret, or did he tell you I'm doing something new, or it's kind of like he's making it gold? You'll see it when you see it.
So I already knew it was going to be this gold, because between the time of me getting the 32 and the years later, I stayed in touch with them, and they were telling me that they were working on a new gold.
Okay.
So this is their official new gold now. They said it's going to be the new version. And they had already built one R35 at that point that was in the new gold. So I already knew how it was going to look.
I feel like I saw that. That was at Tokyo Auto Salon in like 23?
I know it was there in 24. It's probably there in 23 as well. I think it was there in 23.
So he has all this. You're building through this. How far does the restoration go? So like, if you don't know, there's companies like Built by Legends that take the R34, strip it down to a bare chassis, acid dip it, they take everything off, They do a complete build from the ground up, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how far does Top Secret go?
In general, even with our Legends, like they try to get cars that are relatively good condition without rust.
Got it.
That's the goal, right? Now, Smoky has another shop people don't know about where he actually restores the cars. It's super secretive. I've never even seen the dang shop. But there is another shop. I actually don't know. Build by Legends is very transparent.
Yeah, they're open. They have videos.
What I do know is that everything in terms of the undercarriage and the engine bay and the interior is restored. I don't know exactly how far they go down, but I know they go down far enough to where everything looks brand new.
So it's kind of similar to that Built by Legends. He just doesn't.
Very similar.
He just doesn't. He's secretive.
Yeah. It's very, very similar.
He just doesn't show anything about it. Yeah, because especially if you're being a customer and haven't been there, you don't even if he doesn't know where the shop is, it's somewhere. It might be underground. We don't know.
I would just get pictures every so often of like the chassis that's gold, and they're like, "Oh, here's your car,"
and you're like, "Where's that at?" And they're like, "Yeah, next question."
Carry on.
So basically, they restore everything there, and they start piecing it back together. When they start getting to that process, are things like the interior, at that point, is everything already decided? Like that sheet you gave him at that point, is he operating under, here are all my edits, here are all my redactions? Or is it a very fluid thing where he's like, he was gonna do this, woke up this morning, he wants to do this instead?
Yeah, honestly, I never saw that sheet again. He didn't. He just started working on it.
He said, "Nice." Yeah, he rolled that up.
Appreciate it. But we did talk about doing the interior. They asked me how far I wanted to go. Did I want to do Alcantara, or was I interested in? I was like, no, let's definitely do it. We made some decision on the seats with the kind of gold Recaros. But that was definitely part of the original process because I wanted it to have a different look from the R32.
Got it. So you want to have a little bit of and the Alcantara is a very good touch, but I'm sure he probably asked you too because he's like, I can gut the whole thing and weld a roll cage in there if you're trying to go that far. But then
that was solely an option.
You'd have been like, yeah, now everybody's gonna look at it and be like, when are you gonna take it over to Coda? You're like, I'm never taking it there. I'm like, I'm never racing on there and take a risk. So from inception, from the sheet, you get to this point. How was the car delivered? Because unless there's another one, I feel like I saw your car at Tokyo Auto Salon.
No, it was. That was one at 24.
So that was your vehicle.
That was my car.
So is that where you first saw it complete? Or
so it was actually incomplete then.
Oh, it was incomplete.
It wasn't complete then. There was still some work to be done in the bay and the interior.
Did you go and see were you over there to see the car at that time? Or like you went to go see it?
That was the first time I saw it in person in its gold form.
In its gold form,
right.
Okay.
I saw it when it was white before, but not in the gold form. So that's my first time, yep.
And now did you have it, I guess at that point, whatever it is what it is. Like you can't go in and critique it. You can't be like, oh, what? You think you could?
No.
He's probably looking at you like, he's smiling, he's happy, and you're like, I'm happy too, because I mean, it is like you're seeing something coming to fruition,
right? At
that point, and you're seeing it kind of come together. So, how long after that introduction? Because I saw when I was watching Tokyo Auto Salon, I was watching footage of Top Secret, and I remember the first thing I noticed is I had seen glimpses of that R35 in that gold color. It was this car that I saw, and I was like, I haven't seen them do an R34 in a long time, and that looks absolutely ridiculous. And that was kind of the overall theme. Like I was reading online, people kept showing pictures of it saying, Top Secret's back, they're doing gold cars.
Yep.
They're doing gold R34. Because I kind of feel like R35s kind of get left out of the spotlight, even though they're very good, is because these are becoming, again, they're having a resurgence of R34s, 3s, and 2s. But when they showed this, it was literally people were like, oh, Top Secret's back. And I kind of laughed and said, well, they did the R35s. They've been doing Skylines. But it was this car and the 3s and the 2s. They're like, oh, they're back to doing what we know and we love of them.
Yep.
When you were having that built, were you telling anybody what you had coming? Like, did people that you know, like friends of yours or other car enthusiasts you're talking to saying, like, I have this? Or was it kind of like you wanted the surprise too, where you're saying, I have something coming. I'm not going to tell you who it's from, but because you can say I have an R34 coming, everybody's like, cool.
Right.
I know a couple people got one coming, and you're like, all right.
I So there are two types of people out there I've noticed in the car world. And my friend, he's more like I'm going to be very quiet until you see it.
Yeah.
I'm like let's talk about this journey together. Like everybody I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
cool
yeah.
with, I'm like, dude, he's building a gold R34. Here's the engine, blah, blah. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't post anything, that I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that. But people who I already knew that, I know a lot of these cars and, a big fan of Smoky, I was definitely kind of showing them, hey, man, even getting their thoughts like, hey, man, what do you, not that it mattered,
Yeah.
but just, hey, whenever we started, like, what are your thoughts on me requesting this, blah, blah, blah. And we all just kind of like went through the process, man, because it was something that I can honestly say I'm not sure anybody ever has been able to do what I did with this.
No, and that's
so it was a cool process.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the cool parts about your stories, because even when I first saw it, I saw the car, and then randomly I'm on Instagram one day, and I think you made a post, and you're like, it made it home. It's like Houston. And I was on my phone like, what are we talking about? I'm like,
Yeah.
You're telling me that the one car that I've seen from this company that they only ever either stay in Japan, maybe they make it to California, they'll make it to Australia, or somebody in the UK will have it, is sitting in our city. I was like, which isn't a common thing, because one, when I see cars like this, it tells me whoever's behind it knows who this company is. They've respected who they are. They've done their research. It's not like there's performance shops everywhere that can build any R34 you want, or any car for that matter. Certain cars from certain shops tell me like you have your finger on the pulse of like what this is, or like what JDM car culture is, because it's not like everybody who has the means even calls him or even tries to build a relationship with him. They'll just say, well, I just want a fast R34. There's plenty of people that can build an RB26, but to have him do it. So yeah, seeing you document that, so it is cool. There are the people that are like, I'm not telling you anything till you see it. But you are right. For something like this, it's kind of like, let me give you a historical piece, because these companies are old. That's another thing I always think about too. A lot of these things that I've seen when I was growing up and when I'm seeing in magazines, I'm thinking back, I'm like, man, if I just go to year 2000, it's been 25 years. I was reading this in 95. So you start thinking about how old some of these people are, how old the company is.
So much heritage.
And you're like, man, these companies have been around for a while. And then, not to make it sad, but you kind of think of like, okay, where does it go? Like RWB Porsches is kind of the thing people talk about. I'm like, how long does he do that? Did it get passed down? Is there somebody in the shadows who's been working with Smokey, who's just been picking this stuff up to kind of keep that legacy going? So to have the piece from the artist is kind of like you making sure, hey, I have a piece of history, regardless of what happens, which is understandable to say, I don't want to touch anything. So people say, oh, change the Haltech, or you should change this out, get different wheels. And you're like, no, if I wanted to do all that my own way, I would have just got a plain R34. And just did my own. I could have wrapped it whatever color I want. I could have built this. I could have thrown the seats. So I could have did anything I wanted. But I did it this way.
And I mean, doing this was an honor. It's very, and that's a very clear distinction. Buying a GT3 RS, buying most Ferraris, I won't say all Ferraris because some of them you have to, actually no, I would say most Ferraris, it's a award. You're rewarded for your loyalty.
Exactly.
It's an honor to be able to have this, because I know it's not I'm not even sure I can do it again. If I ask him to do this, I don't think he'll do it. So that raw distinction is why it meant so much to me and why I engage with people that I know.
You took a leap to get the R32 because they posted it for sale, which means that you just happen to be in the right place at the right time to even be searching and say, oh, there's something up there. And then for years later, him to come back and say, I'll build you an R34, even though he's like, I kind of want to do R33. And you're like, could you do 34? He's like, yes, I'll do it. So yeah, there is an honor there, which sounds, I know for some people, it'll sound kind of silly where they'll say, what do you mean an honor? It's like, that's how much we care about the people that do the thing that we love and the culture that we love, is that, it is an honor to have Smoky Nagata come and say, I built you a car. Because like you said, the amount of money you have won't dictate if he's going to say yes or no. It's not like he's running an open business shop where he's like, if you have X amount of dollars, like you said, I can go into a Ferrari dealership and work my way up to getting allocated an F80. all I have to do is just keep buying Ferraris.
Keep buying Ferraris.
Over and over.
Yep.
Keep buying them. Just keep buying them.
When he released this, people tried to call top secret. And they just declined them. They're like, nah. And that's just how they are.
Have people been surprised you haven't? Because I know when you see certain cars or like, sometimes you see a car online and you almost try to visualize who the owner is.
No part, I'm just being real, no part of a gold R34 screams black dude from Louisiana. It's not something you would expect, right?
No,
it's just, that's not the target market, or that's not the typical buyer for even R34s, period, right? So I really, coming up in the automotive world, it's actually pretty rare to see black guys in enthusiast type cars. It's just not common. I will say, and I also brought in the Built by Legends R33. So I think it wasn't as much of a shock because the white R33 that was in Houston, that was a first Built by Legends customer car. So I brought that in, and that kind of really, this guy likes Skylines.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
it kind of opens it up.
So I don't think it was that big of a shock, but it was still a shock because people did not know the TAS car, Tokyo Auto Salon, was my car.
Yeah.
And so, it was still a shell shock.
Yeah, because most of the time you see the booth cars at TAS and ultimately you assume that's a company-owned car.
Yep.
How long did it take to get here? Like when was it done? Like, was it soon after Tokyo Auto Salon in 2024? Or is it like kind of towards the end of the year?
I think it was finally done towards Q3 24.
Okay.
Somewhere around Q3. And it stayed there for a while. There were some logistic issues with transport and containers.
I was going to ask one
like
question,
that.
actually. How did he tune this like the old school way on the street? Where he goes and drives? Because I know old videos, he would just be like, I'm in the street on the car and I'm just going to see what this 900 is going to do.
So he does drive them.
Yeah.
He does drive them. He has a dyno as well, though.
Okay.
But here's a dyno. But when I got it, he already had 400 Smoky miles on it.
Oh man, so he was
about 400 Smoky miles on it.
Those are good. Funny enough, some people are like, it's probably beating on your car. It's like, no, if he's driving that car hard, you want that because he's a guy that's like, he's like, I'm gonna send it to you, and
let me make sure it's right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it had about, I think it was about 500 or 600 kilometers. So 300 plus ish miles on it from build.
How was it? Because I know the car's done, you're excited. Now the nerve-wracking part is getting it from Japan all the way to Houston. What was that like trying to logistically get something this special? Because you hear the horror stories about somebody shipping something, it gets to Long Beach, container, it's just ain't no containers.
It's gone,
a container not on the ship no more. It's like, so when Top Secret ships a car, I'm imagining we're shipping at the highest level of insurance, logistics. Like we're not doing the fly-by-night importers that are just like, I'll stick your car in there with a bunch of other cars. Hopefully it gets
we didn't do that.
So how was that process for you to get it here?
I've been fortunate to work with Cars USA.
Okay.
That was a plug, Cars USA. Discount. Many times now. They're really solid. They're very accurate with their timing. And their expectations. So I told them, hey, I need a container. I need it directly to Houston. Like and actually that's what was weird is that depending on the port, it goes a different direction. And it kind of freaked me out because this had to go to China first. So from Japan to China to here, I was freaking out. That's a long way to be on the water, man. But Cars USA is really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And it was going to be safe. We had really good insurance on it. I've had it tracked. My pal Co in Japan put air tags. Actually, this came at the same time as NSXR, which is kind of cool. So I was freaking out, bro.
You just freaking out. You're like, I have two of the biggest investments floating on a boat, and I can
see it in Hong Kong. Like, oh my God, it's still in Hong Kong.
You're like, when's it like? It'll be gone. We're leaving out in 2 days. You're like, can you just send me? Can somebody just send me a picture? It's like almost like you want to set up a container. Like, is there a way we can set up a wireless camera? In there, in the container, on a satellite. They're like, no. You just have to trust it's there.
You got to trust the process. And I started watching Instagram videos of boats, like in the rough waters. I'm like,
see containers falling over. You're like, where's my container in the relationship to the ship?
Freaking out.
They're like, it's on the ship. You're like, no, I want to know what, like, is it below? Is it the ones at the top?
Yep.
You're like, how big is that boat? Yeah, look up the boat.
And typically I would not care because at the end of the day, it's still a car.
Exactly.
But even if it was, say, Ferrari F50, yeah, okay. If the fender dumps over, it's messed up. But that's what the insurance is for.
Exactly.
I don't think I could have got this again.
That's
so
the
I was
thing.
like,
You were dealing with something that wasn't just like a stock R34.
Yeah.
What was the experience like getting it and then going for the first drive?
So getting it was crazy. Actually having hands on it in Texas, like that was a whole new experience, man. And seeing the color pop in the sun. The biggest thing was the drive, because most cars I drive, I have a high expectation, and many times it doesn't quite fulfill it. It's rare that a car performs at a higher level than I expected.
Okay, that makes sense.
I expect it to be good, but it gave me so much more, not in just speed, the whole experience of driving. It gave me so much more than I expected.
Yeah.
One of the most satisfying first drives.
It's a visceral experience.
Ever. It's like so visceral, man.
All the character, all the pieces are like, it's like all the ingredients together came together, and you're like, I really enjoy what I'm having.
Yeah,
what we're
everything
doing here.
from the feel to the sound, to the response, to the handling, the braking, and it has that same kind of feeling that a 997 RS 4.0 gives you. You get in, everything just works, and you're like, this is
That's something I've heard about R34 GTRs when they're like modified right. Even these stock ones that they get back to like you said, 997 GT3s. You get back to these kind of analog cars where like they were so ahead of their time that you didn't know it then because it was just what was there. But then now we're 30, 25 years later. Everybody's like, the R34 is as good as a modern day sports car right now.
Oh yeah.
Which is incredible to say, because it's almost like you realize, you almost want to tell, because now Nissan is in a whole nother world right now. But you almost like you want to tell them like, hey, how about you go drive your old cars so you can go figure out
remember
what you would remember where you came from. Exactly. So you have your first drive, you get that experience, you get that kind of connection to it. Was it, like you said, it exceeded your expectations? And did it feel like you got what you wanted from Smoky? Meaning, you know, when you see something that you commissioned, you're like, this is everything I could have asked for. Besides the feeling, when you get out of it, are you like, I have his personality and his touch, I can feel it around?
No, that's exactly how I describe it. I got more than what I wanted from Smoky with this car. Again, it exceeded everything I expected. When you drive it, if you watch Smoky's old videos, being the rebel, burning out on a public highway, when you drive this, it feels like you're in Smoky's mind. This is what he would have wanted. And it's so, and I've driven a lot of cars, man, and no bug to any other car. I've driven tuner cars. I've driven like, again, high-end exotics and some of the best Porsches. This is as satisfying as any car I've ever driven, and more. And the only maybe one or two they're even equivalent to it that I can think of.
Exactly.
So no, it was crazy, man.
Yeah, that's what I've always. You read about it, but it's good. It's just nice to hear from like an owner, to hear from somebody that went through the process, because when you read about this stuff online, sometimes you don't know if it's hyperbole. You don't know if it's just being, you know, kind of embellished, where you're like, is it really that good? Could it possibly be that good? But when you hear your story, and then if you read about Top Secret and who they are, then it's not far-fetched. If you know who Smoky Nagata is, you've seen what he's done, and you see how rare his product and his art gets shown outside of a controlled environment like Tokyo Auto Salon. Of course, you expect Top Secret to be there. They're one of the premier members of that community in Japan. But to see their stuff anywhere else, especially in the US, because we just never have been privy to their things. And I'm sure it's like that for any other country, but here it's like we just really don't see that stuff at all. Or if you do see it, it certainly isn't in Houston. It's not in Texas.
No.
California, I wouldn't even be shocked. If you were in California, I'd be like, of course.
Yeah,
in California.
Everything's in Cali.
I was like, it's all here. But to have it here is something very special. You have the car here now. For real quick to end, is there anything else coming next?
That's a great question. I am looking at not JDM. No, I was looking at JDM. I actually asked Smoky if he would do an S15. He said no.
Well, hey.
Actually, he said I want to do Skylines, and that was a statement. I was like, okay, well,
listen,
never mind.
Hey, patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
Last time he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And years later, he said, I'll do it. So,
yeah. He just like, I want to do Skylines, and I just stopped asking. But no, there's some German stuff, I think. Some classic German stuff.
Because those are becoming now
cars,
the ones that can import.
Yeah, that's the next fun thing to do, man. But right now, I'm just going to enjoy this. Like I can't, from the JDM world of this and NSXR, like especially this, like I don't see any way to go higher than this. This gives me everything I ever wanted from a JDM car.
So now you need it's kind of like you need to jump to the other side where it's like kind of get some of those classic German cars in the UK and Europe that we couldn't get here, that now they can be imported. Integrales and old Mercedes AMGs and BMWs. Like now those can come here. So it kind of opens up that world. Because you're right.
Yeah.
To get to here, to get an R34 in general is a top spec for a lot of people. To then get it from top secret is kind of like you said.
That's the pinnacle for me.
There's no more to go.
It's childhood dream car. I can't go higher.
I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, man.
I thank you for showing us the car, and just having it here in the city and kind of opening it up to people to experience. Sometimes you might see him at a Cars and Coffee event, not all the time, because like we said, it's a piece of art. It's special. So no, you're not going to catch him at Chick-fil-A on a random Wednesday night, just in a parking lot. But I appreciate your time, allowing me to come here to see. It's amazing. In person, it's just this gold color in person. The pictures, even at Tokyo Auto Salon, it's kind of dim. It does nothing for what this color is doing.
It doesn't.
It almost looks like a mustardy color. Then you see it in person, you're like, oh no, it is gold.
It's like liquid gold.
Exactly. So CarQuicks Podcast, as you know, my man Reggie here, we spent some time with. I'll see you guys on the next one. And if you see this anywhere event, shout them out, show respect to Top Secret and what they've done here, because this is a special car. Thank you again.
I appreciate it, Doc.
Yeah.